It's a battleground between the GTOs and the GTPs, and we are right back where we love it, on the streets at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. This is about as wonderful as we get here on the Global SimRacing Channel. A look here, Jake Sperry, Stephen Koenig here at your track details here, and a circuit that is a very known quantity since its induction in 1978, Stephen, but the keys are going to be those long runs from Le Pangle at turn 10 all the way up to the Virage Senna turns 1 and 2.
That's it, and all the cars are going to have to get used to low gears, especially in turn 10, 1 and 2, as you have to try and slow these behemoths down. And, well, you don't really have ABS to sort you out, and the aero is not going to help you either. So it's going to be an absolute amazing race here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. That being said, I'm looking forward to seeing how multi-class action is going to work around this circuit after a great turnout at Laguna Seca.
Well, as we look, round 11 of 12, 40 minutes on the clock for this race, and everyone's got a chance of building a car that is the best for them. It's open setups. There are no get-out-of-jail-free cards here today. No spare cars available. A drive-through at 17 incidents. An incident penalty will be along at every 25 afterwards, or as we should say, disqualification comes along at 25 incident points. So keep that in mind as they go through, because this is going to be a very tough race, and we could see a lot of dramas, especially with a track blockage early on. That could certainly prove to be difficult. But as far as it goes, it has been a championship where Jacob Reed has been in complete control when it comes to GTPs, as we take a very brief look at this, because you've got the likes of Nicholas Mucano, 65 back, having a big scrap with Shadi Ahmad, Christopher Lenejak, Ilka Cotasalo, 4th and 5th with Brendan Lim, Gabri Martinez, Pepe Fuentes, Fabian Youngbluth, and Brandon White making up your top 10. Makes it a really interesting fight there, Stephen.
It's going to be a great one, and I've got to say, the GTPs is incredibly close, and also we have got some wild cards in the grid as well that can turn it onto its head in a matter of seconds.
We absolutely can, and qualifying has just completed itself then, so we'll have the opportunity to run through the starting grid as things go and say who has managed to get where. And it is Jacob Reed who is on pole position. He has been all conquering this season ahead of Nicholas Mucanos, with Gabri Martinez and Pepe Fuentes on the second row. It's then Jack David Spickett and Ilka Cotasalo 5th and 6th, with Christopher Lenejak in 7th and Fabian Youngbluth in 8th. Henning Schwebig will start 9th, and Shadi Ahmad with a lot of work to do down in position number 10. Outside of that, in 11th, you've got Brendan Lim and AJ Roper. Philip Lake electing for GTP today in 13th, with Eki Anderson in 14th, ahead of Stefan Leslie and Brandon White on row 8. Sam Cook and Jason Keddy will be on the 9th row, with Andres Felipe Diaz and Emiliano Olivetti making up your top 20. There are 25 cars out there, if not a few more. Harry George and Kevin Davidson were the last two to set a time, leaving the final 2 rows to be held by Hamilton Barrera Ruiz, Carlos Fonseca, Drew Shush and Eric Pelletier, making up your 26. The final 4 drivers split on iRating, as GTO is with Steve Koenig.
Well, it's going to be Noel Lindberg starting out in first place. Mickey Friesen locks out that front row. Keep an eye on Johnny Hanger putting in some great times, along with Sean Hawkins sitting with that 1:33.8. Andre Schumacher, Josh Brain lines out in 6th. 7th is Roman Bello, along with Jerome Van Hicks a little bit further down in 8th place. Joseph Feinbecker in 9th, and 10th place goes to Oleski. So a little bit further down from there, it's going to be a little bit tighter in the Audi GTO field. In Haycox will start out in 11th. 12th place is Torben Pollock, followed by Mate, Mello, Henry, Richard, Bajon, Rene, Tyler, and Matty in row 10.
And then we got over the page then the last couple of drivers there. Henry Morse not setting a time, and Tano Benotti as well, then, as you had the likes of Alexei Usiakala. If anyone knows the pro scene, Alexei Usiakala won twice in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, part of Team Redline, a legendary victories to start the season over the likes of Martin Kroenke, Gregor Hutu, and the like. Very much a burner account, some would say, with the name like that, trying to go and push, but with some good pace with the likes of Joran van Hicks and co that were there. Keep an eye out on drivers making progress through as they run along the back stretch. Jacob Reed and Nicholas Mukanos will be the two with control of this field, and quite naturally a gap left back to Noel Lundberg and the entire category behind as they look to get themselves ready for racing action. The Porsche iRacing first safety car dives on straight on into the pit, and 40 minutes of racing is about to cook itself up a storm. Let's get ourselves ready at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Jacob Reed with the launch gets us underway, and we are running here from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. A clean start into the opening couple of corners. Fuentes into third, Gabriel Martinez having to fight Ilka Cotasalo, then through the second part of the Virage Senna and up over the tiny crest over the hill. Cotasalo holds that fourth, and we're scrapping immediately in GTO. Jonny Hagner to the inside against Mickey Friesen and takes the place.
Absolutely great stuff, and a very clean start on cold tires and cold brakes. But now it's about putting the hammer down, and unfortunately for second place, Hanger needs to get the hurry up and go. A little bit further down, however, we got a beautiful scrap in that number 16 car going and battling to hold position.
Oh, we got a spin in GTO, and it's a big one because it's Mickey Friesen with a half spin as they go through. There's Ian Haycock, who's just seen the smoke screen that was given. Friesen now down to 11th place with Emilio Dechari for position. Dechari will lose out. Torben Paulik is there in position, and Shane Hawkins will now take a slowdown penalty, as now we've got Gabriel Martinez side by side as they run along the Casino Straight. This is against Christopher Lenejak, so Gabriel Martinez has dropped a couple places over the last couple of corners. That will certainly hurt. Holds the place, but now behind JDS, Jack Davis Pickett, Ilka Cotasalo and Pepe Fuentes.
That wall of champions is calling as Gabriel Martinez got so close, under braking and really trying to put the hammer down. You can see a little bit of battle scars early on the GTP class. But as our Audis bounce over the curbs, this is always a very, very tricky corner for the four-wheel drive Audis, as it does look like Lundberg now is trying to stretch open the gap a little bit more from Hanger. But Roman Bello now under the pressure, dives to look for the outside, look for a cutback. Unfortunately, no room to get the hammer down and try get away from that 9th position, hunting him at the moment.
The Ghibli machine of Josephine Becker sits and watches with Roman Bello in front. Alexei Usiakala is then in front of that, and Shane Hawkins sits there in the Game of Fuel car. Then just in front of that, Torben Paulik and Mickey Friesen behind in the box of neutrals. Emilio Dechari and Mate Lorinci, the Hungarian, who sits there. Ian Haycox as well, there on the back, trying desperately to hold into station and say there's more. And there's troubles down at the bottom of the circuit as they all try and work their way through. This is in and around the top 10. So you look around and say, who's got room? That's AJ Roper dropping time, and that's a big moment for Gabriel Martinez then, who looks around and has to avoid that final chicane. It was a game of chicken between Martinez and Lenejak, and both end up jumping the final chicane.
That is gonna hurt, and the underside of the cars are gonna feel it, as you do get a little bit of damage on these GTPs. But now they're starting to work their way through the Audi field as well, as they catch up to the back of it. Now just need to keep the hammer down. You've got to be patient. You can really see Shady Amand also keeping his way off the wall, doesn't want to get too close, doesn't want to push too hard at the moment and wear the tires down. Going to wait for the longer game here to try claw his way up through the field. It is big points, and this is why we come back to Montreal every single time. The ultimate equalizer for our class.
Yeah, but what made it difficult there for Shadi Ahmad was that he came together with Henning Schwebig, who was having none of the overtake out there. So that's what made life difficult. Too clear at the front, as we have expected. It's Reed and Mukanos, and that is Fuentes, I think, going on, and Jacob Reed slowing down and having with a slowdown penalty will lose the race lead outright. So Jacob Reed has overcooked a chicane and has lost the race lead and is now back to second. So Nicholas Mucanos now has control of the field. Reed in second, Fuentes is in third, and that's how the category looks at the moment. Over in your opposite category right now, GTO, Jonny Hagner is up to the front, Lundberg in second, and Andre Schumacher currently the driver in third. Joran van Hicks, championship leader, up to fifth place, but it is busy as they go as Fuentes looks to hunt second, third and fourth. Throw a blanket on them.
Well, at the moment, we also got some big changes. 3 cars in the pits. Emilio from our GTP class, Gabri Montanas, who also went and stopped, returned back to pits. Kevin Davidson, unfortunately, landing up in pit lane. So the car's running into a bit of mechanical issues early on, but it is frantic for Shane Hawkins to try and defend his position. Currently lying in 6th, good points to be in. They do have 4 drop rounds to play with here. Unfortunately, you don't want this to be your drop round, being the second last race of the season.
And that will do it for Alexei Usiakala. Car's too difficult, pulls over to one side and says, end of the race there. So no dice for Alexei Usiakala. But for the moment, Shane Hawkins is looking at the charge because you've got the likes there of this huge slew. Dechari, Paulik in there. Becker's trying to attack Mickey Friesen, who's managed to move through. And then you've got the likes of Romain Bello. And then, of course, Shane Hawkins, who is keeping the weight of the world behind. You've also got the recovering Henry Morse and Tano Benotti, who are trying to work themselves up into this group. So for Josephine Becker in the middle of this, question I asked to you, Stephen, what do? Do you go aggressive or do you just try and bide your time?
I would rather bide my time, rather save a little bit on the tires, try and focus on getting a little bit more momentum. You know mistakes are going to creep out, as we've seen throughout the season, and also knowing that the GTPs are going to soon be slicing through this field and will be giving you the opening. So rather wait it out, get yourself all sorted, sit in the mirrors and let them make their own mistakes, especially under braking coming in to our last chicane, aiming at the Wall of Champions. If you brake a meter too far, well, we've already seen 2 cars go visiting the off circuit.
And they are battling for the race lead overall out there at the moment. Jacob Reed and Nicholas Mucanos, because that gap has shrunk back down again as Romain Bello works himself through the middle of this group, tries to climb the hill over towards turn 3, but at the moment it is going to be a bit of status quo then for the lead group right now, with Noel Lundberg very much close out there. There is Jacob Reed, and he is trying his best to get to deal with Nicholas Mucanos. Now, Mucanos has been lightning fast, and he's been lightning fast in these cars for a very long time. The one thing that Nicholas Mucanos struggles with is just getting it over the line in P1. He's such a great podium finisher, but it often comes at the expense of victory.
And to consider that he's 3rd in the championship, with Jacob Reed running 1st in the championship, I mean, this is where you gotta think the strategies are coming in. How far are you willing to push? Are you gonna try and back off? But we've got a bit of replay here as you see Emiliano get it all types of wrong, but unfortunately gets a bit of contact from behind as well, and that is a loss of 2 of our GTPs and nearly having the field coming through. We had 1 getting clipped, but Olivetti not going to be too happy with that one. No front end, and that is a long waiting time in the pits to get it all fixed.
And one of the reasons why you see an incident like that is because of the other 3 letters on the Nissan GTP. ZX-T, T for turbo. The turbo lag there, unable to get the power down, the engine spooled up as here comes Jacob Reed for a look and can't quite get there at the final chicane. Because that turbo didn't spool, Stephen, that effectively left the chain reaction of, well, I'm trying to mash my foot to the floor, but I've got nothing.
You've got to always try and keep some revs up. You actually land up left foot braking just to keep the revs on the engine and pull your way through. Sometimes some of the drivers actually slip the clutch just to go and allow that turbo to spool a little bit quicker. Unfortunately, you can also light up the rears, but as they get closer and closer to the wall, it does make things rather interesting as who's going to be scoring that little bit of damage. And at the moment, Nicholas's car not looking as fresh as it started.
No, and it's very much a case of how close you want to go against the walls. We've got a scrap on as well, 3rd overall in GTOs. Look at that. You can really sense it on the rear wing, just how much work has been done and the contact that Mucanos has been dealing with. And now they're starting to hit the main train of cars here. So this will be the first of them, which is Bjorn Ackermann there with the unicorn on the side of the car, trying to get through. Jacob Reed has to really wait. Andre Schumacher loses the pass then. So Josh Brain now moves up into 3rd in the Momo car.
Absolutely great stuff, but Andre's not down on power yet. He has got the toe to pull himself along, and the slipstream on this circuit, especially with the Audi GTOs, is incredibly strong, but he has to remember he's getting chased down by Van Hicks a little bit further back. Also, Thorben in a little bit of a sticky situation as he's right up against the cars ahead of him, but hasn't got enough room behind to play with as well. Forces you to have to consider defensive lines versus attacking at this point. So Thorben has to think a little bit carefully of how he wants to move up through this order.
Well, he can't afford to be too aggressive, and he can't also afford to be too defensive, but what will help is that the leading duo are about to scythe their way on by, and that will then be followed by Pepe Fuentes and Ilka Cotasalo and Christophe Lenajak making up your field at the moment. So the top 2 continuing on their scrap, but look at how difficult it is. It's Henry Morse that's in front of them, trying to push side by side here with Mattei Lorenzi, and this is going to open up a whole can of worms. There's a big thing that I'm not going to do it, as that's the case of Mucanos going a mile deep, and off the exit Jacob Reed might get drive, but Mucanos is quick to the power and is able to just scamper away. Brave stuff here from your leading duo, and they've got more to get by here. Dechari, Paulik, Bello, someone's going to have to leave an avenue open here into the Wall of Champions section, and it's 1 for the clearance into the chicane.
Absolutely great stuff. Jacob Reed thinking a little bit more of protect oneself. Mucanos is throwing caution to the wind to try and claw some points back, and also to finish our first here at Montreal. Not an easy job to do. Very few iRacing drivers can say they've scored the checkered flag here, and at the moment Mucanos trying to improve, but there is unfortunately a spinner further back.
Sam Cook pointing the wrong way, having to do a 360 to get back into position. Very tough to navigate through, but ultimately look at the rear wing and how much damage is there. Jason Keedy now hoping for the outside to work, doesn't work at that section, and so troubles aplenty come back again to bite. So Kenny moves on by, or tries to move on by, but fails to do so, as Sam Cook now is up in 17th place. That's your leaders right now in GTO. Jonny Hagner and Noel Lundberg pretty much split together by nothing, and they're trying to do everything they can to give themselves the position that they want, and at least for the time being, it's those top 2 that will feel very happy with the work that has gone on. Looks like Torben Paulik had a spin as well, and now he's dropped down the order on board with Lundberg heading into that final chicane, and there are a lot of drivers now trying to avoid incident out there on track.
Take a look at how aggressive the drivers are over the curbs with these Audis. It gets a very light on the steering, and also your braking then changes as well. So trail braking becomes a little bit harder, but Noel Lundberg trying to put the hammer down. At the moment, 3rd in the championship, and he's staring at the back of 9th in the championship. That can take away the points and bring Mickey Friesen a little bit closer if Mickey can really get the hammer down and get out of that 6th position at the moment. But Noel having a beautiful run, late on the brakes, you can see a lot of pressure on the nose, tries to close up the distance, unfortunately not having the pass done as yet. But here comes the fighting duo for our GTPs as well.
So leaders will now exchange along the straight towards the 3rd chicane here, under the bridge, which is the entrance to this island in the St. Lawrence River, and then attack off the exit. Jacob Reed has seen that gap go out to a second and then come back, and go out to a second and then come back, and now it's come back. and looked around the outside for a chance, and Noel Lundberg not yet in a close enough position to make something happen of it. You've got other scraps as well, which include the likes of Ilka Kotasalo and Christopher Lenejak going at it, but for the time being, this is where the main focus is. Front of the field, Nicholas Mucanos holding himself steady, currently at the front. They've got traffic again in front. Richard Heinemann, who's got the wrong setup on, he says, which is giving him a lot of trouble in the way that he's going, and from the 007 cam, Mucanos has everything covered.
Take a look at the difference in lines between Nicholas Mucanos and the likes of Reed. Reed goes a little bit wide and takes a very tight entry to a very tight exit, where Nicholas Mucanos throws caution to the wind, goes out very tight, stands on the power, forces the rear to bite with him. And this is a low aero circuit. This is where you're flattening things out to just get that little bit more pace. He has got the car all sorted out to keep the turbo high enough to keep the power going. Well, Reed, unfortunately, needs to alter his lines, maybe following Mucanos in the racing line all the way through, start to learn where he's going to pick up the pace. And that, I think, we're starting to see happen as he is pushing a lot harder this time around.
Well, he'll want to wait through, and he'll want to quickly as Ilka Kotasalo now loses the place to Christopher Lenejak, and he'll start running away, trying to get around Hagner and Lundberg. And Lundberg now in the number 3, really trying to eye up that pass. And again, car 3, P3 in the championship, can't manage to find it. And this is tough against the Glacier Racing car in front. And that livery, so synonymous with sim racing for over 15 years.
Absolutely incredible stuff. But now Hanger has to keep it all together. Noel right on the back of him, going to keep in the slipstream, not going to attack this time round, going to wait it out. Does go for a super aggressive line over the corner entry into the right-hander, bounces the car up, but he is trying to find every little pace that he can. He's got to be careful of incident points that can rack up, but a big incident, Waller champion, has just claimed Andre Schumacher.
Well, Schumacher's got to be very careful about getting back onto circuit here, and instead takes the toe. So the German then trying to deal with Joran van Hicks, who went down the inside. He was aggressive over the corner, tagged there. There was a car spun around on the outside as well. It was one of the GTOs then, as that was an incident between Henning Schwebig, Shadi Ahmad. Those two came together again, so this is the first instance. So that's there on the outside, and as they battle off the exit, Joran van Hicks, well, he just tries to take his throttle out of it and ultimately catches the quarter panel. So van Hicks through into 4th, Mickey Friesen now in 5th, and so those two, 1 and 2 in the championship, together and scrapping quite aggressively. Now Fabian Youngblood will try and get through in the mock-up Minolta, but for the race lead, you never get a break because Jacob Reed tries the outside, and it doesn't quite work this time, but he'll go off the exit. A big move defensive to try and make it work. Mucanos trying what he can, and will this work into turn 1? Yes, it will. Jacob Reed to the point.
Well, absolutely done. Eyeing out to try and block Mucanos, use the GTOs to his advantage. Now needs to get going because he's been chasing for long enough. Now Mucanos can put the pressure on and see if Reed is going to crack. Mickey Friesen up into 4th place. He's going to be happy about this, as not too far ahead of him is a championship lead and will be trying to claw some points back. But Van Hicks in the toe, trying to pull himself a little bit closer, look towards the inside line, second guessed it to go for the undercuts. He's going to try feed the power on a lot earlier. The rear's starting to slip just ever so slightly, and you got to keep an eye. Hawkins is just watching and biding his time.
I'd say Noel Lundberg's the bigger threat in the championship than Mickey Friesen for a driver like Joran van Hicks, but these points will continue to bleed away if he's down in the position that he's in. And then you've got the 3 of Stefan Leslie, of Hamilton Barrera Ruiz and Henning Schwebig trying to work their way through their 10th, 11th and 12th overall right now, and it's all about giving room. And it's even tougher when it's on a street circuit because you have to be even more respectful as Mucanos is back through into the race lead then. So another change that goes into play. Jacob Reed loses the lead again, fights on the outside again. Buchanan's now trying to hold that inside line, but Jacob Reed just sticks it at the centre chicane on the outside, turned inside. Wonderful stuff from the Worcesterman.
Just lined himself out beautifully. Had a disadvantage, utilized it to become an advantage, and take a look at the drive he got on Nicholas Buchanan to try and open up the gap. But now they're going to have a little bit of traffic ahead of them in their own class. And this is where life gets a bit difficult because the aero wash starts to bounce these cars around. And Jacob Reed wants to clear traffic as fast as possible. Otherwise, Nicholas Buchanan is going to return the favor in boxing him in.
We're almost at the halfway stage of this race, and Jacob Reed, half a second is the margin, and Noel Lundberg, by the way, has now fallen back into third. So there's been an issue for Noel over the last couple of laps, and it's come together with Joni Hagner. So the top two in GTO have tangled over the third chicane, and that has meant that it's Lundberg who's lost out, and Lundberg took a tap as well from the lapped Matti Uusitalo. So just like that, one fin, two fin, red fin, blue fin, Noel Lundberg's back to third.
Noel Lundberg not going to be happy about that one, and eating points late on the brakes, up on the inside, over the curbs, and just loses out the drive. And there's the secondary impact. Oh, front suspension, gonna take a hammering there. Your cooler is now broken as well, so that is going to be the temperature starting to climb gradually, and you will land up with that engine saying goodbye in a good couple of laps. I'd say you have about 3 good laps before that temperature gets too high and game over.
Well, Lundberg will try and manage that the best he can, down in third position now and trying to recover as many points as possible as Stefan Leslie here in 11th in GTP holds the station, and Joni Hagner now at 5.3 to the good for the time being, working around then through the virage centre and looking to attack off of the exit. Leslie doing just about enough of a job right now to hold this station and keep it nice and calm at this point, but there are battles everywhere, and Lundberg is through on Josh Brain, and now it's car 9's turn. Mickey Friesen, oh, that's so aggressive to get that done through. Outside of 3, inside of 4, thank you muchly.
And absolutely the trust both drivers have to have is one of the GTPs landing up that past them, outbraking itself. But Josh now needs to feed the pressure on, try get a little bit closer to Mickey Friesen, knowing that not only that Mickey's in a chase now, he's hoping to also capitalize on any mistakes further up the road. And got to keep an eye on the rearview mirror as the GTPs will be once again coming back through the fight.
They certainly will do, and you just see they're in the back as the likes of Heinemann has to get out of the way for Andres Felipe Diaz, for Sam Cook. Josephine Becker leaves just enough room. Shane Hawkins and Joran van Hicks find themselves together on the road right now, and there's Drew Schusch trying to work away past the My Little Pony car, I believe, of Hamilton Barrera Ruiz at the moment here, working through turns 1 and 2, and there you can see there the Princess on the side of the car looking to try and make that charge up the hill towards turns 3 and 4. Not much elevation change here, but just enough to make this profile more than just what you'd say is the cookie cutter airfield you get around certain circuits like Sebring and Silverstone.
Absolutely great stuff. And I gotta say, Hamilton enjoying the drive. He's got the power from the My Little Ponies. He's got the Queen on the side, so he has to try aim for the crown. Sam Cook, however, really pushing it so close to the Onco barrier as he tries to battle it out at the moment. He's not holding back and wants to try and climb out that 15th position, get a little bit closer to the top 10. But Sam, not having any clear space to try and get the pass done, will have to be a little bit more patient around the GTOs as loses the rear. Just saves it. A little bit of marbles on the corner, plus standing on the gas. Well, you spooled it all up with lack of grip, and unfortunately that's now gone and hurt the tires tremendously and you will have to deal with it. Jacob Reed, however, now gunning it away from McConnell. Take a look at that, 1.9 seconds away. McConnell just not having the long stamina to try and get a little bit closer to Jacob Reed at the moment.
Very much a case of run away, and there's not much more you can do about it. That looked like a stutter freeze there in terms of an issue, to see that car pointing around as Mukanos finds himself happy in place. So too now Joni Hagner is built 5.7 seconds now, and the polar bear is roaring about at this moment. Lundberg holding Friesen then, and Josh Brain. Joran van Hicks trying to leapfrog over to that group with 15:46 remaining on the clock. But this is tough now, because you're into the second half of the race, and this is where mistakes can start finding themselves to creep in, and it's, especially at a street circuit, it can be not your mistake that ends this race.
As we've seen so many times before, Noel's going to have to start lifting a little bit more towards in the corners. Doesn't want to get the engine temperatures too high on that car. And remember, he's got a bit of damaged front suspension he's dealing with at the same time. So he's got lack of straight line, lack of grip, and dealing with an engine that's ailing at the moment. I've got to say, he's done a brilliant job thus far to keep the gap to Mickey Friesen. But the question is, how long can he keep that gap? Mickey is on a chase and has been improving his lap times every single time he comes by. Actually setting his best lap time last lap was 1:33.7.
Yep, so the lap times are certainly going the right way, and for Romain Bello, every point will be worth fighting for. Josephine Becker sits there, but Henry Morse, we know, is up there in the championship in fourth. We saw a fourth place finish earlier on today when it came to racing action in the Lotus 49. So he's fighting for a championship there. He's having a decent run of things at the moment here, trying to work through the cars one at a time. But watch out on the left-hand side, that's Jacob Reed, who breezes by. There's one, there's two, and we'll look to try and get three as well, but no pick open there. And this is what you see. The GTOs tell the GTPs where they can go.
Exactly, and Henry Morse is so far faster than all the cars around him. So Josephine Becker needs to put the hammer down, same as Roman, because if Henry Morse gets on by, he can open up just enough of a gap. But it's getting rather busy with all the cars. Remember, no ABS, no traction control, understeering GTOs. They will have to hold the racing line. The GTPs, with a lot more aero and a lot more power, have to be considerate. But Becker dives to the inside line, going to try outbrake and try get it done on the 21, and does get around the outside of Roman. Can he get the power down? Yes, Josephine moving up into 7th position.
Well, reclaiming that 7th from Romain Bello, but I don't think Romain's done. Throws it back at Lepangle, the tightest corner on the circuit, this hairpin, and they'll drive along the Casino straight with the Casino in the infield. Now, how do you feel? Is this going to be a royal flush, or are you going to be staring down at 7 deuce off suit with nothing in the back of the mind? It's a case of, well, why don't we make it a 3-bet? Henry Morse thinking about bump drafting Josephine towards the corner, but right now it's about where do you get the exit. Into the wall of champions goes Romain Bello, takes a tap from Emilio Dechari. Henry Morse, the orchestrator, now looking to play everybody in that group to his tune, takes to the inside, says yoink, that's mine.
Absolutely well done. That is what you need to do. Think about the long game, pushing a little bit more. Becker, unfortunately, now needing to try and claw back and get that 7th position. But Becker also not having an easy drive, trying to get past at the moment, as Roman will make life a little bit more difficult after that. Our GTP starts slicing their way through the field yet again. And take a look at Christoph, trying to just keep out of trouble at this moment, wanting to keep the power on, but not willing to take chances to move up into that 3rd position. Just all about focusing on the drive.
Well, that drive is going to be critical, and there is Christoph Alenijak, who's having a wonderful race here today, has gained 3 spots and really wants to catch the podium here, where Pepe Fuentes is currently holding that station right now, is the Spaniard here, and has offered got a whole heap of jokes there, here, there, and everywhere. When it comes to his liveries, he is very much trying to go through, but a space battleship sits and waits behind right now in Elena Jacques, who is trying what he can to close this gap, but it will take time. There's not much of it left, but you need the traffic to work with you to gain that margin. So let's take a look at the last 2 laps between them. Fuentes a 28.5 by comparison, a 27.6 by Elena Jacques. That's 9/10.
And with the cars able to get down to the 23s in qualifying, shows how much the traffic plays into the race. Jacob Reed out in front of the GTP field, looking for yet another win. Take a look at the gap, over 6 seconds to Nicholas Makanos, whose tires have just had the drop-off, and he's starting to fall down the order quicker and quicker. So let's see if Makanos is going to have an easy time to try and keep Fuentes at bay, or is he going to now take a proper go, brake late, charge through as there's 10 minutes, 25 seconds left of this race. Makanos is going to have to throw caution to the wind yet again to try and close up that 6-second deficit.
Well, we know how quick Jacob Reed can be. He was a former pro stripe when it came to the Turn Racing Grand Prix iRacing Series, which was the predecessor, of course, to the IndyCar Butt Kicker iRacing Pro Series. He was, of course, a 2-time iRacing Grand Prix World Tour champion, and after his result yesterday even, as Mickey hard into the wall and having a huge smash up, any hopes of championship aspirations now will be blitzed to oblivion at this point as he tries to find a nice clear space of track to flick spin the car around. Disaster.
Oh, so close, and unfortunately was gonna save it, but the road just ran out, clipped the left-hand rear, and that's him turned around. He's got to be careful, but this is a track that's forever busy. You're gonna have to try and work your way around. Mickey Friesen just seeing points running away, doesn't want to take that toe, as we've seen others do. Unfortunately, that is just a gut punch of note.
Still trying to turn it around right now. It's a heartbreaking scene as Elena Jacques continues on the rear, looking for 3rd place. It's been a disaster, but for the moment, the pole looks for a way past the Spaniard. On the brakes they go. That's Johnny Hagner directly in front, who has driven a wonderfully crafted race, but can Elena Jacques find a way to move up for that final spot? That's the question in the last 8 minutes and 40 seconds. He's not going to get any luck here going up towards that final chicane. This is a nightmarish scenario for Pepe Fuentes, knowing that you've been hunted down and you've got to hold on for what looks like to be at least 6 laps.
And it is going to be a long 6 laps. These drivers have been working frantically with the cars. There is no reprieve around this circuit, especially when you're in these classic machines. You're going to have to really fight tooth and nail till the very end, and there's still positions to come if mistakes happen. We've seen it creep through, we have seen problems, but take a look at Van Nix now putting the power down, seeing Brian ahead of him, and wants to get as close as he can into the toe and aim for the second last corner to be on the inside line.
Yeah, and as they all go about their business and say, what more can you do? There was a huge moment for Jason Keddy in the 3rd chicane, who got pushed into the corner by Sam Cook. Mickey Friesen was caught up in the middle of it, and it happened right in front of your overall leader, Jacob Reed, who was able to skirt around it. There's Drew Search, who is, as such, looking for the pass to go into the next position against Hamilton Pereira Ruiz. No luck against that. They started 23rd and 25th respectively. They're now 11th and 12th.
Oh, Drew just keeps the momentum up as he tries to make the passes. He's looking for the inside line continuously, really relying on the left-hand side to see if he can get on by into 11th position. However, it's not going to be an easy run. Pullock has been keeping a consistent effort. His lap times have been consistent despite traffic. And that's always the hardest driver to get round. It's not usually the fastest, The one that's average lap time is consistently quick.
Yeah, consistency is king in races like these, and such moves onto the brakes, then takes the normal line through the chicane and can't really do much more than just sit, watch and wait for what comes along in front. We got scraps up and down this order, including for both podiums here in both categories. Joram van Hicks has found the back of Josh Brain.
So Josh now needs to keep the hammer down. The Momo Colors not having an easy time as Van Hicks immediately closes up on that rear wing, wants to open full taps as fast as possible, aims to try get on the inside line. As we've seen Van Hicks do in the past, he's comfortable under braking with the car. He's got it all set up, but unfortunately not having an easy time. Looks in the rearview mirror, sees the GTPs are coming through, threads the needle as well. I mean, that is just a heart-in-mouth moment of where are they going to go. Van Hicks tried to utilize any way to get past. Unfortunately, didn't quite have the drive on Josh at the moment, but will still hold the racing line, trying to direct traffic around him in the slipstream, pulls himself along all the way up to maximum, does back off rather early just to have a bit more room and try get the drive through the wall of champions. A little bit of a sideways moment for Josh, but he was able to keep that turbo spooled up.
Well, this is some clever driving right now from the likes of Josh Brain. He knows that he doesn't have to do too much, but I think Joram van Hicks is waiting for the perfect time to strike and to score some all-important points here. They know that Noel Lundberg's a bit too far away, and so too Jonny Hagner by comparison. Lundberg has been trying to hunt that gap down. He's got it down to 3.8 seconds, but it's just not too long left in this race, and I think Jonny has done just enough to hold that station as they try and deal with these drivers. And Elena Jacques with a massive kick of tail, then going through against Mickey Friesen. Had to be very courteous on the exit there with a massive kick up, and it's allowing Pepe Fuentes the chance to break away. 1 second, and that will feel like such a huge weight off the shoulders with 4:10 left.
Oh, that's it. You just need that breakaway. We also saw in shot one of the GTPs out-braking oneself into that 180. But for Christoph, this is a beautiful moment to just focus on your drive, to worry about your own racing line. You don't have to keep an eye on those mirrors too often, and will have to start thinking, okay, how am I going to get this car to the end? Because a lot of the drivers, as we do see the 32 turned round of our GTOs, that's true, having a stellar drive, but the 180 claiming the car. You can see the front end a little bit knocked in and will be falling down the order, trying to keep the power on. But that car is going to be a mission under braking now.
Yep, so Drew Such is going to have to really work hard, but he's also got a black flag penalty against his name, so he'll have to take a drive-through for 17 incident points, so that will certainly hurt as well as the damage that he's got to come in and serve that penalty as well. So there is still more to come along. There's your leader, now 9.5 seconds to the good. Jacob Reed is 3 minutes away from victory, and by my math, he's 3 laps away from victory.
Absolutely tremendous drive, and to get a checkered flag here, being the second last of the races for the season, means that you have got enough room to play in the championship, and Jacob Reed has been a dominating force in the GTPs. He's really worked on this car all season long, trying to get it to grip up as much as possible to keep the power down. Nicholas has tried to thwart him in the early stages of the race. Unfortunately, when it comes to the long game, Jacob Reed spends hours working on this car.
I wouldn't say that Jonny Hagner's safe right now in the race leader GTO. That gap has come barreling down to 2.2 seconds here, and Noel Lundberg right now is hunting. On the last lap, he took 1.1 seconds as Joram van Hicks tries to the outside. It's way too aggressive from Josh Brain. He'll get a slowdown penalty for his troubles, and he will surely lose out third place now. Joram van Hicks on the last spot on the podium. Jonny Hagner with a bit of issues around René Larsen. They're going by the gaps now, 1.8 for GTO lead.
This is a nightmare affair, and Yoni is going to be battling. As you can see, Noel keeping the power down, trying to figure out where can he get just a little bit of room. That was a bit close. And unfortunately, nearly had a bit of an issue there.
Bloomberg tagging the wall then, going through the right-hander there of turn 5. Hamilton Barrera was trying to sneak on by as well, and both of them ended up tagging the wall lightly on the outside, but it shows how hard Noel Lundberg is trying to push here. That gap's still around 2 seconds, but desperately running out of time.
Here's Noel smelling blood in the water here, as Yoni not having an easy time out on the track. We can see him in the same shot, and for Noel, this is exactly what he wants to have. He wants to be able to chase. We've seen Noel get pressure put on him to try close gaps, and he will do everything to make it work. He will fight tooth and nail. I mean, we go back to Portland, where the drivers had to battle out. He sat on the outside through every corner, just trying to get for a win.
He'll do anything he can to get there, and Jacob Reed right now is the bearer of bad news. There will be one more lap to go in this race, and he has driven a dominant display, as we have seen on so many occasions this season. Has picked up wins in what is 6 of the first 7 races, and then did so again race 10 of the season. So his count currently sits at 7, and he's looking for number 8 out there overall. His great rival in Grand Prix circles, Eduardo Radice, picked up his 8th win of the season yesterday, and now Jacob Reed will say, well, I'll do it, and I'll do it here in this style of machinery. Jonny Hagner still has the gap, but the key here is that Jacob Reed could take a lap away from Noel Lundberg. That gap is down to 1.4 seconds, and if he catches the leaders of GTO, that's it for GTO. Jonny Hagner knows he wants to try and make the end here, but he doesn't want an extra lap to fight. Noel Lundberg needs an extra lap. That gap is down to 1.1 seconds, and they've got one straight to go. Rene Larsen to try and get around and navigate through first, and then Noel Lundberg will be hoping that Jacob Reed does not catch him along this final straight, heading towards that final chicane, walking away in the way that only he can, winning in the way that only Jacob Reed can, as he hits the final chicane and drives towards the line. Jacob Reed wins at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for an 8th time this season, and it's going to be Mucanos in second, and it will be Pepe Fuentes holding on for third. GTO is now on for the victory.
Absolutely great stuff, and Hagner going to be really stressed at the moment, trying to possibly fuel save. That he was slowing up so much. Didn't see any damage on the car, but he's gonna have to give it everything she's got. Noel trying to close up the gap. Take a look under braking. Super aggressive, trying to close the distance down. He knows it's so close. He's telling the Audi, please just hold on that little bit longer. Trying to get in the slipstream so he utilizes all the aero possible. Unfortunately, Jonny is driving an extremely wide car and keeps his foot in it the whole way through. There's no lift here.
There is none at all, and it's going to be about how aggressive this braking zone is at half a second. Lundberg has just got to hit his marks and absolutely fly out the corner. Catches a bit of oversteer, that gap increases a bit more, and Jonny Hagner knows that it will have to be a send from the heavens from Noel Lundberg to try and get that through. He's got to chase down what looks like 4.5, 5 car lengths to go and make this pass. One final chicane hits. Lundberg's looking for drive. He's so aggressive through the corner. He closes the gap. He needed one more lap, but it will be Jonny Hagner coming to the line. He holds against Noel Lundberg.
What a drive from Hagner on that one. Absolutely stunning stuff. And take a look at the lap times. 133.48 for Noel Lundberg. For Jonny, it was a 133.8 as they got across the line. I mean, that shows you Noel was properly there. Unfortunately, just a little too late.
Yeah, just a little bit short. It happens to the best of them. Let's get confirmation of result then here from the circuit. Gilles Villeneuve. Jacob Reed wins by 12.7 over Nicolas Mucanos, with Pepe Fuentes taking third in GTPs. Christophe Lenejak was close, but no cigar, just 9/10 adrift, with Ilka Cotasalo getting fifth ahead of Brendan Lim, who had a quiet race in the Silk Cut Jaguar in 6th position. Shadi Ahmad will finish 7th, picking up more consistent points ahead of Philip Lake and Fabian Youngblood, with Henning Schwebig rounding out the top 10 in category. Just the 11 on the leading lap, as Hamilton Barrera Ruiz would be the last car there, with Andres Felipe Diaz and Drew Such then in 13th. Jason Keddy and Sam Cook make up 14th and 15th. One lap down as well for Harry George and Eki Anderson. You then got cars that are retirees or worse, with Stefan Leslie, AJ Roper and Carlos Fonseca not able to find results, and neither could Brandon Wright, Jack David Spickett, Gabri Martinez early on, Emiliano Olivetti, Kevin Davidson, and a non-starter in Eric Pelletier, who would not get any running done out of the 48 cars that were here. As far as GTO was concerned, it was Johnny Hagner who had picked the result up. 3/10 in the end over Noel Lundberg, and because of the way that it fell, it's a lap compared to everyone else, as Joram Van Hicks and Josh Brain would be 3rd and 4th. Shane Hawkins and Henry Morse would be 5th and 6th, with Roman Bello in 7th, and Josephine Becker, she would be in 8th place. It's then Emilio Dicciari 9th, and Matteo Lorinci making up the top 10. Thorben Paulik, despite having a spin, would still finish in 11th ahead of Ian Haycox, and Mickey Friesen, with an eternity to wait in the middle of the race, would take 13th. Bjorn Ackermann would be a lap down in 14th. 2 laps for Henry Villamarchi and Tyler Bramble. Richard Heinemann would be in 17th ahead of Rene Larson, and then your retirees Tano Benotti and Matti Usitalo, as well as a couple more, Andre Schumacher in dramatic circumstances, and I will pull it off to the side of the road for Alexius Yakala, who will not be declared as a finisher. But some wonderful racing that's been constructed here in terms of this one, Stephen. But the best bit is they've still got one more round to try and put it all together again.
Yeah, and that's going to be at Watkins Glen. And this is where it's going to be rather exciting. 6th of September, it's time to lay it all out on the line. The Classic Boot is all about flat out. It's about your top end and who is going to be able to push these cars to the limit, and especially who has got the brakes to slow down in towards the infield. This is going to be a one to watch, and the championships all on the line from 1st right down to 10th.
And you can only catch that with us on the Global SimRacing Channel as part of a Genesis Extreme production. A massive thanks to the team here today who has brought this to you, from Stephen Koenig alongside Daniel Costello in the director's chair, Dougie Beard with the cameras. My name is Jake Sperry. But as was alluded to, we do have Championship Weekend coming up next week, just in time for the start of the NFL season. You got tomorrow, of course, which is the penultimate round of your Classic Lotus Grand Prix series. That'll be kicking off from the Red Bull Ring. But then you've got Okayama, which brings itself in with the Grand Prix Legends. IMSA Vintage will be jumping over to Watkins Glen. And then, as well as that, the Majors Series will be having some big sim racing action. Road Atlanta is the place where the next battleground is held as they race towards the end of the championship there. The story, though, has been one we have told season after season. Who can stand up and say, I keep on winning? Johnny Hagner, yes, there was contact between him and Noel Lundberg. Noel almost aggressively found his way back and in towards victory, but just ran out of laps to gather it back. But what more can be said? There is one Worcesterman who is standing head and shoulders above the rest of the GTP category. He has got so much to deal with in terms of the way he goes about his racing, and nobody has seemingly been close. The data scientist, Jacob Reed, gets another one, his 8th of the season, and he will look to march on for a 9th when the final round of the championship breathes life into Watkins Glen.
is iRacing.